You know what? Why don't we react to Crystal and Sagar's debate? I'm actually not surprised. That's a lie. Sometimes I'm really surprised at things Sagar disagrees with. Sagar constantly surprises me, especially because I can't read him ever. I really can't. I don't understand. I can't ever read him. I would love to debate him though one day. That would be awesome. But I can't ever read him. He's very confusing to read. So I'm very curious what he has to say regarding the Don Lemon anti-ICE protest, and obviously Crystal Ball Queen, Slay Queen. Let's see what they have to say.
Minneapolis has been a very high-profile protest, I guess if you could call it, where a bunch of BLM activists who are now part of the...
They're not... Okay. What is this? They're not BLM activists. BLM is for Black Lives Matter. This is ICE. This is completely different. And I'm pretty sure, based on the readings I've done, people that were protesting are also part of the church as well. Like, they're not some randos.
Anti-ICE movement stormed into a church in the state of Minnesota. The reasoning behind this was that they had found names of ICE officers and suspected that one of the pastors at this church was the leader of a local ICE field office. It did end up, by the way, that the pastor, who they allege was an ICE officer, was not even present there at the time. It set off a high-profile incident, now showdown with the Trump administration.
Okay, you're missing something very important. It was confirmed that that pastor that they suspected was the field officer actually was. So that's kind of important.
Lemon, the current YouTube streamer, I guess a disgraced ex-CNN anchor, was actually present at the protest, which has heightened some of the discussion around this. So we're going to show you some of the clips that has happened. We're going to discuss.
I just don't understand the Don Lemon thing. That just is weird to me. Like, I just don't understand that. I don't get it.
On the other side, let's take a listen.
So you can see the protesters here have gathered over here. They're in the middle of the church. So in the beginning of the church service, the pastor was speaking, and Nikema stood up and said her piece, and then the protesters surrounded her. But this is a clandestine mission. I think they found out according to them, this is according to Operation Pull Up, that one of the pastors here is a member of ICE. And so here we go.
And we were interrupted by this group of protesters. Yeah. We asked them to leave, and they...
Oh, so I thought it was this guy. So now I'm kind of conflicted, to be honest. I thought that it was this guy that was part of ICE. If he wasn't the pastor, I feel like you have to go to when the pastor's presenting her. Like, I feel like going when he's not there, just like, but I mean, still go, but he should have been there. I feel like that's when you like kind of stake out. Because like, I thought this entire time it was because this guy was part of ICE, but I'm guessing it's not him.
Obviously have not left. So.
What do you think of it?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. So,
but there were folks who will...
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment.
My flock. Oh, God.
Freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus, because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world, is Jesus Christ.
I'm going to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here.
I'll tell you is that there are varying arrays of views on the political situation here.
What do you mean by that?
I'm going to leave it at that. But there's varying array of views in this church on politics of immigration. Right. Recognize the complexity of the issue.
Yeah. Some people don't like what's happening. Some people like it.
I'm not going to reduce it to that. I won't reduce it that simply, but we acknowledge the complexity of the situation.
It's not complex. I don't like when people like that, especially like, no. I'm sorry, like, you are a white man. Shut the fuck up. It's a complex situation. No, it's not actually. They are rounding up black and brown people. It's not that fucking complex. It's not that fucking hard.
Sir, I appreciate you talking. By the way, just so you know, this is what you get with independent journalism that you will not get with corporate media. I'm just here to tell you. So if you're in the chat, if you're with us, support us. Support us. Support us. Like and subscribe. Become a member. Support independent journalism.
So there's Don in the church asking for people to like and subscribe after accompanying these activists, where he appeared to have had some foreknowledge.
They're not activists. Do we need to understand what an activist is?
This is relevant, by the way, whenever we'll get to some of the charges that may be levied against him. With the Trump administration, of all of these protesters who decide because they suspect, again, they did not even have it confirmed, it's been confirmed now later, that a pastor who was not there was potentially a leader of the local ICE office, that they decide to come in to disrupt this service, to harass, intimidate, and scream at, including, by the way, women and children. And if anybody's wondering, it was a multiracial congregation. I don't know, Crystal. I mean, looking at this, like, I think that the spirit of BLM is alive and well. It's very clear, specifically because it's also a BLM.
Why? There's no connection between Black Lives Matter and being anti-ICE. Just because the woman was black saying this? I don't understand.
A group that was behind this protest. And I've actually been frustrated that everybody's talking about.
This is where I don't understand Sagar. This is an Indian man who is a son of immigrants who has the most confusing views sometimes.
Don Lemon, and not about the actions of these protesters themselves, and then the reaction from Democratic lawmakers. So you had the Minnesota State Attorney General defend this protest action, and he said, oh, well, people will have to feel uncomfortable. So he doesn't see anything unlawful here. He actually doesn't think it's a violation of the FACE Act. You have the state Governor Walz of Minnesota put out some mealy-mouthed statement. And it's like, this just seems intrinsic to me. And I remember in our debate, people got mad because I talked about liberal protest norms. This is liberal protest. Like, they seem to believe it is okay. And again, this is a violation, actually, of federal law, at least.
It's not.
Clear cut to me whenever you have the FACE Act, which was written in 1994, specifically says you can't intimidate and go in and disrupt religious worship services. It is unbelievable to me, like, that there is no general consensus and effectively just silence, in the same way that you see many right-wingers be silent on, let's say, the excesses of ICE, to what is something which is so egregious in its form of protest. And it seems completely normalized and permissed, like in the liberal establishment within the state of Minnesota. And the fact that the Attorney General immediately dismissed it, the local police literally doing nothing whenever these people, and again, let's be clear, screaming, making children cry, following them to their cars, intimidation, direct trespass, not leaving whenever they want. I truly do not understand how can this cannot be, like, actually condemned, especially when this already happened in 2020, and there was a massive backlash against it. So I really actually want, like, I don't understand. As somebody who swims in this world, like, what is happening here? Like, how is it that this is completely permissive? And it's just like, oh, our side is good, so they can do whatever they want. The Minnesota State Attorney General is making a big stink about political persecution.
Pastor is working for ICE. That completely goes against the Bible. That completely goes against Jesus Christ. That is the basis of this protest. Also, his obsession with BLM doesn't make sense. They're not BLM. The fuck? BLM has nothing to do with this.
Or non-prosecution or whatever in the Renee Good case, immediately comes out and says that this is totally fine, especially in a state where you had a shooting very recently in church. Like, how could you possibly try to encourage this type of behavior? I just don't get it.
So let's separate a few things out.
And that's why I don't want to talk about Don Lemon, because,
we do need to talk about Don Lemon, because that's what they're focused on. And the administration is threatening to charge him specifically with FACE Act and also with the KKK violation, which is insane. So I watched I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched a good bit of his stream. And to be honest with you, it was genuinely good. Like it was, like, I mean, we played a little bit of it here. He was tipped off by the protesters that they were going to do this action, okay? As a journalist, and no doubt he has a perspective. That doesn't mean that he isn't a journalist, right? So as a journalist, he goes in, he documents what they're doing. As you saw, he spoke with the pastor, he spoke with parishioners. He at times was asking them challenging questions, but he also asked those challenging questions of the protesters as well. So of course you come away with a sense of where Don Lemon is on the issue. But it was genuinely valuable to watch his stream and to hear from the parishioners themselves. Because if you do just come at this from either a right or a left perspective, then you're going to have a very flattened view of the human beings involved. But, it actually gave me sort of more texture and more context to be able to think about whether this was a sound tactical approach. Hearing like that guy that we heard there who's like, listen, to be honest with you, there's a lot of different political views in this church. There were other people there who said, to be honest with you, like some of what the protesters are saying, like I kind of agree with. This to me is way out of line, and it's, too comforting. I'm very upset about what they've done here. But to be honest with you, some of the things that they're saying might be things that I agree with.
Sure.
So, in terms of as a journalistic endeavor, like I think you should like and subscribe. He's on the ground in Minneapolis. He is actually tracking what is going on here and giving you a window in that is not just caricaturish.
Well,
so the idea of charging him is truly insane. And we all know the reason why they are focusing on him, which I think is also worth saying as well. Because he's famous, because he's liberal, because he's hated. Yes, I think because he's black and gay, all of that plays into it.
He's the first person to remind you he's black and gay. Okay, it has nothing to do.
There is no doubt that is part of why he is a lightning rod here.
No, because
no, it is. Literally, Nicki Minaj said that she says he's a cocksucker. Like, it's because he's black and gay.
I don't think that is deniable. But in any case, that's the reason that they have made the face. He wasn't even the only journalist there, by the way. So for Don Lemon, for them to even float charging him with the FACE Act, with this KKK, insane. And like on principle, as journalists, we should be vehemently opposed to that. Because genuinely, you may not, I know you don't like his views, he's a liberal, all of that.
It's not because he's liberal that I hate him, but yes.
But okay. you don't like it.
No, but here's the difference.
As a journalist, like the ability to go in to document this protest, to be live, to talk to the protesters, to talk to the parishioners, to talk to the pastor, to talk to everybody on the ground. It was genuine. It was actually valuable content, and it is worthwhile looking at it because I think he, in some senses, did a favor to the right because you do get
insane tactics.
Yes. Because you do get more of a sense of you can't just view the church members there.
I don't know what the problem is. Like he interviewed multiple different people. Like I'm not. Like what is the problem with his stream? Like he interviewed different people throughout. He interviewed multiple parishioners.
In a caricaturish way, when you actually listen to what they have to say, and you're there in the room with them and experiencing that. Now, for me, in terms of the protest tactics, do I have like a moral issue with? No, I don't have a moral issue. I think it's crazy that there's an ICE field officer who is in any sort of...
That should be the focus. The fact that there is a pastor that literally works for ICE in the city that they are currently being invaded. I feel like that in and of itself is fucking insane.
Position of moral leadership.
Fine, but that's
this is a guy. Well, it is my business. It is a business. I mean, I'm a taxpayer of this country. I'm paying his salary.
Sure, they can protest
they are,
in the
local community.
Also, on top of that, churches don't get taxed. So it's kind of bullshit.
Let me just finish for a second. So do I have a moral issue with? No, I don't have a moral issue with it. Do I think, and people get very mad when you say this, do I think it was tactically smart? No, of course not. You've given a major propaganda win to your adversary. You protected 0 immigrants, right? You're undermining the good work of the Will Stancils of the world who are out in the streets, tracking ICE agents, blowing whistles, and recording. I mean, and Trump posted actually yesterday before he started posting like his private text with Emmanuel Macron or whatever, he posted that there was, quote, too much focus on ICE agents and not enough on the fraud. Why? Because he sees that these videos that everybody's seeing of, pulling some elderly American citizen out in practically his underwear in the snow, tear gassing a 6-month-old baby, shooting now a Venezuelan national on top of the killing of Renee Good. Like he's seeing that this is not going well for him in the public opinion. Those tactics are working. And instead today of being able to talk about those things and those abuses, we're having to have a debate about interrupting church services in this way that I think for a lot of Americans is going to look over the top and very uncomfortable.
It's because it is over the top and it is ridiculous. Like these people violate the social contract at the most basic level.
But can I ask you one thing though? Because do you also, I think you used the term egregious, is that fair?
Yeah.
Do you also think it's egregious that ICE has interrupted church services to make arrests of undocumented immigrants?
But see, no, this is kind of my point, is that it is a race to the bottom. And if we want to have some sort of norms whenever we're like...
Okay, but like answer the question.
And by the way, even it's a bit difficult.
But do you?
Because it is a bit difficult when you have churches who basically declare themselves as a place where the law itself, immigration law, does not be allowed to enforce. Like that would be like saying...
Is he saying what I think he's saying?
Saying that you can commit any crime inside of a church, and as long as you do, that you're going to be immune from federal or...
Dude, hello, watch Spotlight. These motherfuckers rape children on a daily basis. Hello. They don't do shit to protect people. What?
State prosecution. So, I do think it is fundamentally different. And then second, on this journalist point.
In a sense...
No. I don't understand him.
I mean, I agree with you that it's fundamentally different because the harm of coming in and like arrest, like those people that were at the church, I think they were upset and they were angry. They're fine, right? To come in and interrupt services, to make arrests in front of everybody and with children and families there, like that is deeply.
So you could just never arrest. If a murderer was hiding inside of a church, could you go and you could catch them?
We're not talking about We're not talking about murder.
Look, a violation of the law is a violation of the law.
We're talking about what is a civil offense in terms of.
Not all the time. We've had multiple illegals who lived in churches to escape prosecution.
Okay, well, so then it's clear. Then you find it egregious when people protest in a church, but you do not find it egregious when ICE raids a church, kitted out in all their military gear, and pulls people out.
I would not do it. I would not do it for somebody personally. I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
If it was just purely like, like women, children, people who have committed no crime, I would say don't do it. I think that you should be able to do it a different way. What I have seen though is there have been extremely high-profile illegal activists who are actually have committed felonies who go and hide in churches at the direction often of some of these NGOs.
We're focusing on the wrong fucking thing, Sagar. We are focusing on the wrong fucking thing. Why is it okay for a pastor who's preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ to then go and say, brown people are bad, let's round them all up? No, that is the focus.
Right
and
now,
then they use that policy against them.
Let's use the specifics of what we've seen unfold. There's a lawsuit right now against the federal government alleging violations of people's constitutional right to worship and disrupting their religious practices that were brought by a variety of religious organizations. I know the Quakers are involved. There's a number of other religious groups that are involved as well. And what they allege is not only that these raids have occurred, during services, on church property, et cetera, but it creates a climate where not only undocumented immigrants, but many other church members are fearful of even going to church. So you are, so if you're upset about this incursion in terms of, protest activity, where I think you're wrong about the FACE Act being applicable here, but,
it
not a legal
specifically
act.
says you can't intimidate or disrupt a
No, it does not. No, it doesn't.
Let me look up this fucking thing. That's my fault. I haven't looked it up. FACE Act law. I can't even go to DOJ because I don't trust them. But it says the act prohibits the use or threat of force, and so no one threatened or used force, and physical obstruction that injures, intimidates, and interferes with a person seeking to obtain or provide reproductive health services or to exercise the First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of worship. I feel like this is a different situation because you see people doing like blocking shit all the time when it comes to abortion clinics. Like, I don't know.
Say disrupt.
I'll find the text.
You can find it's about threats, intimidation, but it also specifically carves out peaceful First Amendment
that was not
protest activity.
You got kids screaming, you're following people to the cars.
It is 100% peaceful.
No,
but in any case, putting
just because it's loud does not mean that doesn't include peaceful. It's peaceful. What does peaceful mean to you then?
That aside, right? I think if you are upset about people going into a church to protest peacefully during a church service, I would say that to be morally consistent, you should be even more upset about the violation by federal agents coming in during service to arrest people. And so that's why, the right's upset about this. Again, I think the tactic was not smart. I think it gave the right something that obviously they see as a propaganda win. I don't think it was the right way to go about things. But I also can't take seriously the rights like, oh my God, the sanctity of religion, blah, blah, blah. Because these are also, in some cases, the same people. I think Tommy Tuberville, yesterday, said that all Muslims are terrible and the enemies within the case. Like, they have no respect for any sort of, blanket religious tradition. It's only when it comes to, something they don't like from the left, and specifically with regard to
but okay, you can say the other side is inconsistent, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't condemn it. And here we have the law specifically says injure, intimidate, or interfere with religious worship. It's like open and shut for every single one of these You don't think that they injure, intimidate, or interfere?
They injured. No one's injured.
Not
intimidate or interfere.
And again, there is
I'm sorry, Chris, that is ridiculous.
Specific carve-outs for, again, peaceful First Amendment protest activity.
I don't think.
Now, do I think, maybe like a trespassing charge potentially? But the person that they focused in on here is specifically Don Lemon, and that to me, I think should be, again, as a journalist, I think you should find very troubling.
So here's my transgressive take. I would agree with you if we had not already had multiple journalists who were prosecuted on the day of January 6th. You had at least three streamers that I know of: Isabella DeLuca, Baked Alaska, and Owen Schroyer, who were all prosecuted.
Okay, you gotta be fucking kidding me. There's a complete difference between January fucking 6th and a church.
By the DOJ, and some of them actually spent time in prison, even
January 6th, hello, insurrection. What are we fucking doing?
though they were streaming.
It doesn't fucking matter. No, Sagar, fucking cut it out. Enough. Are you kidding me?
What was going on? Under the same thing, you could make that argument is that they were...
No, you can't. The FACE Act does not protect streamers from streaming the fucking coup attempt that is happening on the Capitol. Are you joking?
Interviewing people, giving context.
Do you support that?
No, I don't.
Okay, then you should be...
No.
Then what? Shut up. If you don't support it, shut up.
And that's why I was saying, that's my transgressive take, is while I despise Don Lemon, I think we should set a standard, actually. And this is part of my frustration, is we're all focusing on Don. No, it's about, the story is the protesters and Keith Ellison.
The story, in my opinion, is the fact that there's a pastor that is ICE. That's the fucking story.
And Governor Walz and Jacob Frey and the entire Lib industrial complex, which has zero to say about it. Pramila Jayapal even did the meme where she said it was mostly peaceful whenever she was. And so that's why I'm like,
but that's
again,
true.
Look, if Nick Shirley,
let's put Governor Walz's. Nick Shirley did go.
No, I was
going to
say,
see a bunch of kids at a daycare,
walks into
and no one's arresting him.
Nick Shirley fucking went to January 6th.
If a Somali fraudster was a leader of a mosque and it was Nick Shirley and people went in, these people would be screaming to high heaven. You think they'd be talking about mostly?
Okay, but there's a complete difference about fraud and ICE protests. What are you talking about? If Nick Shirley did that, yeah, people would be pissed because it's about fucking fraud. If this pastor, which is true, is the director of ICE in that area that is currently invading their fucking area and kidnapping and disappearing their friends and family members and their neighbors, of course it's a completely different situation.
Not for a second.
And you'd be defending him.
No, I actually would not be defending him because I think this is crazy behavior. I'm even said that Nick Shirley literally did a piss poor job and is a retard who doesn't know what the word benevolent means. So I'm not somebody who's sitting here and defending all of these types of tactics. And I defended all the January 6th streamers. I don't think Don Lemon should be charged, which is why I'm so frustrated that Don Lemon somehow, by the way, we can get to his little clip about claiming white supremacy and denigrating people. Again, the enduring.
It's about ICE. It is literally about ICE. That is why he said white supremacy. It is literally about ICE.
Image of that protest is an Asian family who are trying to protect their child from these freaks who are screaming in their face. But this is the
It is about ICE.
issue is that BLM, and people always are like, why does he talk about it so much? This is the beating heart of liberal activism.
But
the right to
It is about ICE. That is why.
But I think
the right to be antisocial.
That is protest.
Yes, no,
that is protest.
No, but to what end? Is that they believe that their moral righteousness gives them the right to destroy, disrupt, loot, riot.
Can you acknowledge, though, that it is some crazy business to have a guy who is the field officer, the head of the agency, the regional agency of ICE, to be in a position of moral authority like that? That is
but
wild.
That's not up to me to defend. That's up to the church. If they're okay with it, then fine, whatever.
So
No. You cannot preach the gospel and then the next fucking day say, yeah, let's round up a bunch of fucking brown kids and deport them to fucking Texas. Are you insane? No. In the same fucking city that is being invaded by Gestapo, literally cars are being stranded on the side of the road with seatbelts slashed and the keys left in the fucking ignition because ICE kidnaps them. There are so many cars building up in Minneapolis that Minneapolis has said, hey, if you need to find your car, we're not gonna fucking find you. That's how many fucking cars have been disappeared, how many people have been disappeared, and how many cars have been just left in the middle of the road because of ICE. It's fucking insane.
There are crazy black pastors around here who literally believe in straight black nationalism. Do I think that's consistent with American values? No.
In lawsuits about all of the aggressive and illegal tactics here, and I think
he wasn't even there.
And I think the reason why
that's the only thing I'm kind of frustrated with. If they should have waited till he was fucking there. That's the only thing I'm going to challenge on the protesters. You should have protested when the motherfucker was speaking. It makes more sense. Hello, you got to do some scouting.
People, oftentimes comment on how much you bring up Black Lives Matter. And the level of energy that you bring to this, which is some private individuals who did a protest that you don't like. But then, to me, the much more important and consequential part of this story is those are relatively powerless individuals, right?
It's not true.
Of course it is.
No, it's not true.
Of course
you're looking at it as a vacuum and not in a vast permission structure.
Can I finish? Who did a thing that you don't like? Okay, I think that is so much less consequential than the fact that you have the federal government with all of its powers, who are aggressively and illegally using tactics in a widespread manner that amounts to a terror campaign in these communities. And with this story specifically, I find the most important, most troubling thing not to be some tactics that I don't think are effective, but to be the fact that you immediately reach for, let me criminalize this journalism. That's the part that is has far more far-reaching consequences than, you know, some protesters did a thing that you found to be distasteful.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would give you the same thing. Is I find many of the tactics, to the extent that I have problems with ICE, it is violation of U.S. due process, violation of U.S. rights. Fundamentally, though, like you, I support deporting people who are here illegally. So yes, my tactical objection is going to be on that. But fundamentally, I think that people who are illegally should leave. You don't agree with that. That's fine. But this gets to my point about the moral equivalence, is they are so certain in their moral righteousness that they can walk into and disrupt every facet of our lives. They can burn our cities to the ground. They can turn every major blue city into a literal shithole for 2 to 3 years, spike the murder rate, take over federal and educational
They're not spiking the, no. They're not fucking spiking the murder rate, Sagar. This is where you piss me off. More crimes are being committed by American citizens than there are by undocumented people. Undocumented people are less likely to actually commit crimes because they don't want to be fucking deported.
Powerless. Completely not true.
But is that happening
US
now?
elite. No, but it did happen.
But, okay.
And that's why.
It did happen. So it's fine.
That's why people like us bring it up, because when they were in power, and then Keith Ellison, who is in power, is defending this, we see with our own eyes very clearly, oh, right. So when you people are in power, they're going to allow this. They're going to use the same selective political prosecution. Nobody gave 2 shits about journalism when all of these 3, I think it might have even been 5 streamers who were all charged under January 6th. They held it up. They said they're not legitimate journalists. Now when Don Lemon is here, because he's black and gay, then all of a sudden we've rediscovered the First Amendment. There is zero consistency.
That's not why, you fucking asshole. It's the reason why they're targeting Don Lemon is because he's black and gay. The reason why the left is just like whatever is because they don't give a fuck about Don Lemon. It's really not about Don Lemon. It's just the right keeps bringing up Don Lemon.
Like
I think there is zero consistency in saying
she's fucking great. I love her.
It is fine for ICE agents to go in and raid a church, and you haven't said anything about that until I asked you about it, and to be so incredibly upset about one church service getting interrupted by a handful of protesters.
Fundamentally,
I think that is wildly inconsistent.
Because what you're trying to defend is the principle that illegals who are tens of millions...
Motherfucker, you are a son of immigrants. You piss me off every day when you fucking talk so derogatory about undocumented people when you are fucking son of immigrants.
Millions here present can go and find safe sanctuary in a church and anywhere in the country.
That's not the fucking... No! The whole point of churches is to go and be peaceful and to learn about religion and practice your religion. There's nothing to do with illegal immigrants. You just have a sick fucking obsession with undocumented people, which doesn't make any fucking sense to me. And who gives a fuck if they can go into churches? Do you know how fucking terrifying that is? Leaving your entire life behind with just the clothes on your fucking back and staying in a musty ass church for the rest of your life because you don't want to die in fucking Latin America, but that's fucking terrible. Oh, cry me a fucking river. Oh my God.
I don't believe criminals have the right to self-sanctuary anywhere.
ICE agents...
Well, I don't believe immigrants have a right to self-sanctuary. I don't give a fuck what you believe. I really don't. Because what we're talking about is not that. What we're talking about is the fact that the ICE pastor is a pastor. Pastors should not be ICE. That is fucking diabolical. That is what we're talking about. This has nothing to do with the fact that churches are sanctuary places. Get that fucking out of your head. You keep bopping around. We're focused on the topic at hand. The topic at hand is the fact that they're protesting, the fact that the pastor who talks all about, oh, Jesus loves everyone, God loves everyone, he loves all of his children, and then wants to deport everyone to different countries without any fucking way of getting back home. Enough.
Should not be brought in to American cities by the thousands to terrorize entire communities, which is what is being done here. And is not about, this is not even about immigration.
Well, I know that's
honest,
a convenient topic,
no, that is
but I don't
true.
think it's true.
Are you serious? The whole reason they're in fucking Minnesota is because of Nick Shirley and his fucking video. The whole reason they're in Minnesota is because Elon Musk boosted that fucking video and JD Vance tweeted about it and saying that Nick Shirley needs to have a Pulitzer Prize for it, which is the stupidest fucking thing. That kid can't put 2 sentences together to save his life.
Why are they in Minneapolis? Tell me why did they choose Minneapolis?
ICE agents are in Minneapolis because of the Nick Shirley video and because that's how this administration operates.
Right, which has nothing to do with immigration.
Well, there are several thousand illegal immigrants who are present in the city.
The overwhelming number of Somali immigrants.
He literally just made a point. Somali immigrants are literally mainly naturalized citizens or born here. There's not a lot of undocumented people in fucking Minneapolis.